Yeah, it was a huge addition to the film. First of all, when you start to get to know the Timorese, they're the most incredible people, because despite what happened, they're unbelievably kind of pragmatic and forgiving of what happened. They don't forget, but they'd like to move on. And their spirit is so infectious and positive that East Timor gets under your skin. Robert went there earlier several times, and he said to me, get prepared when you get back into, you know, your life, you'll be depressed. And was I ever? It's so recent. All of them lost a mother, father, grandfather, brother, sister, everything. The average age on the island is 17. So a whole generation was completely wiped out. And so that history is still so fresh, and you can see and feel it everywhere.
Yeah, there was an older woman that I think was shooting that last scene on the pier, a Timorese woman, and she basically had a breakdown in the middle of shooting it, and they had to sit her aside, and she was just sobbing and sobbing, because for them, it was exactly what you said. They were just trudging up all of those things, and then for us, I think it was a very intense moment, because you start to get, it's not a thing of vanity. It's a lot of times shooting a film, you get so self-involved, and I think for me that's when it really hit the importance of what Rob and Anthony were undertaking.
Yeah, just quickly add that for us, playing the five guys, all the footage that you see, our pieces to camera, are all actual recreations of real footage that the journalists sent back to Australia. And for most of those pieces, we were standing in exactly the same locations that they filmed those pieces in. We slept in the same house that they slept in the night before they died as well, just the five of us. And Timor is an incredibly spiritual country anyway. They have an animist culture, so they believe that all the trees and the rocks and everything has a spirit and a life to it. So to answer your question, I'd say absolutely that we felt something beyond anything that we'd felt before in terms of making film. There was definitely something else at work going on.
Yes, go ahead, please. Yes.
The story of Balibo 5 is like a really significant part of Australian history. So it's really good that you put it as a film and shared it with the world. But I want to know, what was the reaction from the Balibo 5 families and the Indonesians, if they had any reactions? I know they commented on it.
Did everybody hear that question? No, he's asking, he knows this is an important part of Australian and East Timorese history, but what is the reaction of the families of the Balibo 5, and further to that, the reaction of the Indonesians to this film?
The families of the Balibo 5 worked with us quite closely and helped these guys immeasurably, and it was very moving to screen the film for them. The incredible news is that only this week, after 34 years, the Australian Federal Police have initiated war crimes investigations, and the film prompted that. It's quite amazing that, you look at the power of cinema and what it might be able to achieve, and I think we're very proud that the film's contributed to the truth of what happened getting out. Within 24 hours of the Federal Police investigation, the Indonesian government has moved to ban the film, which in some respects, up until then, they'd just been saying it was a work of the director's imagination. It's kind of a pity, because there's a whole, as we know, Indonesia is now a democracy, 10 years of transition. It's quite an incredible country. And for a lot of young Indonesian people, some of whom helped us on the film, this is a historic event. These events happened in the same year that the Vietnam War ended. And so, surely we're able to look at the events of history through the prism of 34 years. But Australia, someone was saying, the film Gallipoli was made 70 years after Gallipoli. The film Breaking Morant was made 90 years after the war. That this is 34 years later. We're quite quick off the mark. But, I know some of the films that influenced me quite profoundly, like The Killing Fields, were made much closer to the event. But it is amazing that the event is still such a contentious one for the Australian and Indonesian governments.
Another question over here, go ahead.
government. And I'm married to Australia, so I know a little bit about the background. I'm just wondering how they perceive the film. I know they started this open investigation, but how they put their hand up and say, hey, look, we screwed up here.
Did everyone hear the question? The gentleman is asking about the culpability of the Australian government. Apparently he's married to an Australian. He's just wondering, he knows that they've invoked this new investigation, but what really are they saying? Are they fessing up?
It's interesting, the current government invited us to screen the film in Parliament House in Canberra, and Anthony and I, and B. Villegas, who plays Juliana, went to Canberra and screened the film for all the politicians, which was quite something. And B introduced the film on the same day, the anniversary of the day her and her family escaped as refugees from East Timor. And I think the difference between the current government dealing with it and the historic figures involved, the historic figures involved still deny what happened. And in fact, you know, up until now, really, young kids in schools in Australia are taught that the journalists were killed in crossfire. It's kind of staggering. I remember a quote from the 16th century from Racine, who said, "There are no secrets that time does not reveal." You know, I often think politicians should remember that. In time, we will know what happened, and I hope the film's part of that story.